All right, Sergio. So the return of Mike Tyson is over, and I got to tell you, after watching that, I need a shower.
I just tweeted that.
Okay, well,
a shower and a confession. We all need to go confess, man. After that, I'm telling you, Mannix, it was tragedy what we just watched. It was like watching an old man just get, crucified. And luckily Jake Paul had the sympathy to not go after him and took his foot off the gas, because it would have ended badly. So that's the only positive thing that I took out of this, the fact that Jake Paul actually has a fucking heart, man, because that was sad, man. It was sad to watch. We watched it in a room full of, men that are in boxing. All of us felt the same, with our sad faces, quiet and emotionless.
All right, so to recap what we just saw. On Friday night in Arlington, Texas, Mike Tyson faced Jake Paul. Mike, at 58 years old, making his return to the ring for the first time in 4 years. First time in a sanctioned fight. That's what this was. In 19 years, Jake Paul, 27 years old, and a fast improving former YouTuber, now a boxer. Not an elite level by any stretch, but certainly someone that's not a joke either. And, this fight, I got to be honest, Sergio, the way this fight played out was exactly the way I expected. You saw Mike in that first round come out and try to throw some bombs. Like, he chased Jake around the ring a little bit. I thought he had Jake rattled in the first minute. But after that, he was a 58-year-old man. That's what he was. And I agree with you. Throughout the course of this fight, there were numerous opportunities, the first of which came, I think, in the fourth round, where Jake, if he had stepped on the gas, could have landed some big shots on Mike and could have knocked him out. He didn't. He backed off. He just kept jabbing, throwing the occasional combination, and just cruised his way to a unanimous decision victory. You could tell from watching on TV that the crowd wasn't at all happy. You could certainly tell from watching on social media that the people watching weren't happy. But I'd say the people that are watching on social media that were fooled by these Mike Tyson Instagram posts. Like, what did you think was going to happen? Did you think a 58-year-old was going to be able to turn back the clock and turn into a guy that he hasn't been in like 25 years? Remember, Mike, this was his first fight since 2005, but he had some years there in the early 2000s where he wasn't very good, right? You go back to the Lennox Lewis fight, which was his last big event. He got his clock cleaned by Lennox Lewis. His last fight was a blowout loss to Kevin McBride, where Mike sat there afterwards and said, I don't got it. I don't have the fire anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. He had not won a fight since he beat Clifford Etienne many years ago. So I don't know, man. Like this, if you thought that Mike Tyson was going to turn back the clock and be the old Mike Tyson, you're crazy.
The beauty of P.T. Barnum, the world's greatest promoter. He has some amazing quotes. I can't think of them off the top of my head, but some of them are like, a fool is born every minute, that you could sell. You could basically sell anything to anyone, because there's so many people that are willing to buy shit. So a promoter can turn shit into champagne if sold right, if packaged right. And this is what they were able to do because of the nostalgia that a lot of people, including ourselves, still feel about Mike Tyson. Now, mind you, we didn't watch because we thought there was any kind of interest or intrigue as far as what if. No, we knew what was going to happen, both of us. We watched because we're in boxing. We're going to report on it, and we had to cringe and bear through that. But we watched it with a room full of boxing executive and boxer and boxing writer. All of us were like quiet. We were quiet, and we were watching. It was
eerily quiet in that room.
We were watching a senior citizen, just try to stay up for about 3 minutes. We're like, whoa, wait a minute. Mike threw a couple right hands because, Jake Paul had to watch out for, he had to get the cobwebs off. But after the first round, then you knew it was over. When Mike stopped going at him because his legs were already giving out. And I told you in our last podcast, it's going to be the legs. It's not going to be the punches. It's going to be the legs. Roy Jones Jr., who was on commentary, he said, I don't like the way Mike's legs look.
In the second round.
In the second round. Yeah. And I agree with Roy. I didn't like it either. And mind you, he has a bad leg. That's why he has that knee brace, and the fact that
he's 58,
and the fact that he's 58. I mean, shame on everyone that took part of this, man. The Texas Commission, MVP promotions, Jake Paul for doing what he did. The only person that I kind of feel got away with one is Mike Tyson for not getting knocked out.
Yeah.
For not ending his legendary career on his butt like he did his last fight 20-something years ago. That's the only good thing here is that he filled his pockets again, and he didn't do it at a cost of pain, embarrassment. Well, not really embarrassment, but pain and a knockout to tarnish his name forever against a fucking YouTuber. I'm so upset right now, man. It really pisses me off that we're going to see this kid, Jake Paul, make tens of millions of dollars and continue making this, because this was going to be a big hit on Netflix. This is going to be a big hit. He's going to fight another guy, another old man, or another MMA fighter. He's going to fight someone else that someone else is not going to bring any kind of competition, and he's going to make a killing, man. And I'm going to keep tooting my horn. I'm going to keep calling him out for the bullshit that he's selling fake fans, because fans shouldn't tune into this nonsense.
A young man coming in for a quickie. I feel so unsatisfied.
Well, I don't think that Netflix, after going through this, is going to be all that eager to get back into boxing again. We're going to talk about the undercard, Taylor Serrano specifically, and that
Thank
was
God for the
fantastic.
undercard.
Don't get me wrong, that was fantastic, and that was an example of just how good boxing can be. But if Jake Paul or anybody comes to Netflix with a similar idea like this moving forward, like, hey, Jake says, I'm going to fight Roy Jones Jr., I don't think Netflix is jumping at doing that. This was, for them, a chance to, engage multiple different audiences, right? Like, how many audiences were interconnected? How many people did you hear from that don't watch boxing at all that were talking about this fight? The number of interview requests I got this week. We're in Saudi Arabia. I was getting call after call from, places like NPR, the Dan Patrick Show, the sports, news, local, everybody was all into it. So I get why Netflix wanted to do it. And the numbers are going to reflect well on this. But it's not like the Tom Brady roast, for example, was massive, right? Like
I love that. That was fun.
Huge, awesome. I've watched that like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
I'm not going to go back and watch Tyson versus Paul again.
You shouldn't.
I'm not going to go back and watch
man.
that to me, this to me is a one-off for Netflix. Like, nobody in the executive suite at Netflix could have watched that and said, you know what, let's do more of this. Because by the second round, third round, the fans were booing. The audience was tuned out. The only thing people were talking about, there were 2 things people were talking about on social media. One was the streaming issue, because there was so much buffering going on.
I know the second one.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you the second. But the first, the streaming issue, hold on. The streaming issue was a big one. We were watching, we're in a hotel, good Wi-Fi, and we had multiple streaming problems. It was buffering the entire night. The second was the insane pre-fight shot of Mike Tyson's ass. Like, Mike Tyson getting interviewed by his son Amir in the locker room. Fine, whatever, doesn't say much. As he's walking away, the camera pans out and you get a shot of Mike Tyson's bare ass. Like, that was wild. So those 2 things are what are going to be discussed about this show moving forward.
The cheeks were out, man. The cheeks were out on display. That was a funny moment. Look, the slap, the butt cheeks, and that's the 2 things that got great promotion out of this, and it's probably going to live on from here on as a forever meme, and that's what you want to remember out of this fight, but out of this event or clown show or tragedy or travesty. Choose a word, whatever you want, but it was sad. But you're not going to remember the outcome. You're not going to remember the fight, because there was none. There was no fight. It was supposed to be a sparring session. It wasn't even that. It was intrigue for 3 minutes, and then after that, it was sadness. It was, what am I watching? Why am I participating in this? And why the hell do we continue to believe Jake Paul as a fighter? Because he's not a boxer until he. I'm not going to go into that rant again. The dude is not a boxer. He's a salesman.
Why do you blame?
He's a salesman, and he's a snake oil shoe salesman.
I'm not going to blame Jake Paul for this, though, because he made a ton of money. Like, isn't that the name of the game? Like, to make a ton of money, wouldn't you do the exact same thing?
To fight other boxers, man. I mean, you're fighting.
It doesn't necessarily matter. You don't have to. Like, you would fight Darren Barker on the show we've got on Saturday if you offered enough money.
Of course, yeah, but that's a former champion versus a former champion.
But you would fight Jake Paul.
Man, I would love to fight Jake Paul because I see openings on him. Like, this dude will get crushed by any decent to good fighter, let alone a former champion. Man, I will wipe the floor with you, Jake Paul. I hope you're watching this or listening to this. You ain't no gallo, man. You're a cobarde. Look that word up in Spanish, man. You don't know what the hell you're doing in there. It's a cash grab. It's sad. Fight a real fighter, and you can get the respect of real champions like myself.
All right, to put a button on this, I want to read some of the CompuBox numbers from this fight. Jake Paul landed 78 of 278 punches. 31 of his shots were jabs, 47 power shots. Landed about 50% of his power shots. Mike Tyson landed 18 punches the entire night. 97 of them were thrown, less than 20% connect rate. He threw... It says he threw 62 jabs. Did you see 62 jabs from Mike Tyson tonight?
No, but I nenever believe those numbers.
He landed 5 of them, so at least that I can buy. 8.1% connect rate, 13 power shots against 35, 37.1% connect rate. In the last, I'm sorry, but the last 5 rounds, look at this. So Mike Tyson never landed more than 2 punches in a round. Over the last 3 rounds, no, he didn't never land more than, I'm looking at the other wrong shots there. He never landed more than 4 punches in a round. Over the last 3 rounds, he landed 0, 3, and 1. In 2 of the rounds during this fight, he landed 0 punches. I think in the fourth, I don't think he 0 for 8. Yeah.
Hashtag boxing.
I mean, just.
And this is the man that's supposed to save boxing. This is the man that's a self-proclaimed face of boxing. This is the man that calls out Canelo. Stop with the bullshit. Stop with the nonsense. Those numbers don't lie. Numbers do not lie. They can kind of, tweak it. They can kind of convince you that you're watching something you're not if you don't know what you're watching. But once you see what we just saw and then read those numbers, they make a lot of sense. Mike Tyson didn't throw no punches, and that was an old man just waiting to get slaughtered. That's what it felt like. It felt like an old man waiting for his execution in the middle of the ring because he couldn't go after his opponent anymore because he had no fucking legs. So basically, it was Jake Paul boxing circles around him, literally, because this old man with a bad knee couldn't go after him anymore because if he did and missed the punch, he was going to fall face first. It was sad, man. That's it. It's I don't want to talk about it. It's embarrassing. I feel dirty for watching it.
All right. I don't think it has any effect, and I don't think either do you, on the legacy of Mike Tyson. He's still Iron Mike Tyson, one of the biggest stars of 2 decades of boxing. This doesn't really change that. It is beyond stupid that this will go down as a professional loss on Mike Tyson's
It's going to go on his record?
It does.
Jake Paul's going to go on BoxRec.
On BoxRec. It's right there. Which is
okay, now you can add BoxRec.
It's not BoxRec's fault. It's BoxRec is the official record keeper. It's the state Athletic Commission of Texas.
This isn't the first time that BoxRec hasn't got the record right.
It's not BoxRec's fault. It's not BoxRec's fault.
I understand that, but this isn't the first time that BoxRec has missed a name or missed a stat. They should honor Mike Tyson and just not put this on his record.
Yeah, but you can't do that. If you're an impartial, unbiased, record
well, then
keeper,
add that.
You gotta
add BoxRec to my list of hitmen. I don't care.
Your grievance is against the Texas Commission for approving this, and you have lots of history with the Texas Commission.
Fucking A, I do. They did me wrong twice against a Texan, but that's another story. So look, Texas, shame on you. Netflix, shame on you. Jake Paul, MVP promotion, shame on you. Shame on everybody that believed that Mike Tyson had an opportunity or a glimpse of a chance of a hope of a strike, a lightning in a bottle to land a punch. Shame on all of you, man. Shame on everybody. I feel disgusted right now, Chris.
I mean, Jake Paul said after the fight that Canelo needs him. I would disagree because look, Canelo, we know there isn't a deep well of opponents for Canelo, but the reality is that Canelo is such a sought after fighter by multiple networks that whoever he fights, he gets big guarantees. He's going to be guaranteed between $30 and $45 or $50 million regardless of who he fights. So no, Canelo does not need Jake Paul. I don't really know where Jake Paul goes from here. Like, does he want to take on a legitimate cruiserweight? Like the the real way to get to Canelo is to try to win a cruiserweight title. He's not going to be able to do that.
A legitimate light heavyweight.
Well, he weighed 230 pounds for this fight.
Well,
he ain't getting down to light heavyweight.
No, he doesn't have to because everyone's going to bend the rules for him. So just fight in Texas again. And
you can do it at cruiserweight.
And a light heavyweight can come in overweight and weigh in with all his clothes with some heavy boots on.
But I'm saying like you've got to try to win a title, like to get Canelo interested in you. And look, he's not. We're about to call the Zurdo Ramirez, Chris Billum-Smith. Both those guys would walk through Jake Paul. Like that's a fact. It's not an insult. Jake Paul's a novice. These guys are seasoned pros.
They would hospitalize Jake Paul.
Yes, I agree with that. All right. One thought on the undercard, and that was, despite all the nonsense at the top of the bill, we got another fantastic fight between Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano. These two women fighting in the rematch for the... Sergio gives them a round of applause. Fighting in the rematch of their terrific 2022 fight, one of the best fights, men's or women's, of the year. It was a fight that was billed as the biggest fight in women's boxing history, and it lived up those expectations. This rematch, not quite as good, and it was marred with a little more controversy, or a lot more controversy, than the first one. Amanda Serrano was cut by a headbutt from Katie Taylor. She had that cut opened twice more during the fight by two subsequent headbutts that were so significant that the referee elected to take a point away from Katie Taylor. It turned out not to matter. Katie Taylor won on all three judges' scorecards, 95-94, which means all three judges found 6 rounds to give to Katie Taylor with that point deduction. Your first thoughts on Taylor Serrano 2?
I said this after the first fight. Katie Taylor is the GOAT, in my opinion, the greatest woman of all time. All respect to Clarissa Shields with what she's done in an amateur and professional career, but she doesn't have an adversary that's as great as her. That's the reason we can't, that's the reason I can't say that she's the greatest of all time. Her accolades are great, but not her. She's like the LeBron James to me, but she's not Michael Jordan. Katie Taylor's Michael Jordan to me. All right, so she's already done it on the big stage. She's beat her twice. She did something that Sugar Ray Leonard did, and I tweeted about this too. This reminded me of Hagler Leonard. Leonard was with the shoe shining, the flashier combinations, the punches you could see, and then got on his bike and moved around. Hagler's the one that landed the heavier punches, even stunned Leonard during that fight. But in the end, Leonard won that fight, and till this day, decades later, people say Hagler won that fight. Hagler won that fight. I don't care how many times I watch that fight. Leonard won that fight to me. All right, so that's just going to be the argument forever, and it's going to be happening here. This is a female version of that great and controversial fight because I'm watching a woman implement more of the criteria that we have to judge on, and that's ring generalship, defense, and effective aggression. Amanda Serrano punched harder, hurt Amanda Serrano, landed the effective punches, but they were too far in between. And in between that time, it was Katie Taylor, landing the clean shots to see with the flurries.
Well, to that point, let me read you some of the CompuBox numbers from this fight, because this was what Amanda Serrano pointed to after the fight as an indication that she should have won. Katie Taylor landed 217 of 529 shots. Amanda Serrano landed 324 of 734 shots. So more than 100 punch difference in terms of punches landed.
How about the percentage
between
connected?
These two women's?
Percentage connected must be higher for Taylor.
No, they're roughly, no, Katie was lower. So it was 41%, Amanda Serrano 44%. What stands out though, and this is according to CompuBox, that Serrano landed 179 of those 324 punches in 3 rounds, the 7th, the 9th, and the 10th. And the other rounds, her edge was only 145 to 107. So she had 3 rounds where she dominated, where she was brilliant. Mm-hmm. But in those other rounds, they were very competitive. And one thing about Katie Taylor, one of the reasons that she has never embraced this movement to do 3-minute rounds is that she's perfect for 2-minute rounds. Her fighting style fits into exactly that short burst. Like, let me get in, let me get out. Let me throw a 5-punch combination. Let me hold you and tie you up. Like, she is built to fight this particular way. So, look, I could have seen it go either way. I could have seen the other one go either way. I scored the first fight as a draw with Serrano and Taylor. being honest, I didn't score it exactly round by round this one because the buffering issues were a problem for us during this fight. But I could have seen
it. Like 2 whole rounds.
We did miss 2 whole rounds of this one. So I could have seen this one when what I saw go either way, but not a robbery. It wasn't a robbery, in my opinion.
The first one wasn't a robbery either. It's just the people that cry robbery either live in the East Coast, especially New York, because there's a lot of Puerto Ricans in New York, or work for CompuBox or avid fans of following just numbers.
No, and again, in fairness to CompuBox, they're the ones that pointed out that Serrano landed 179 of 324 in 3 rounds. So she got a lot of her work done in 3 rounds. The issue that came up after the fight, though, was the refereeing. And the referee, I don't know. See, this is where I get a little bit lost here because the referee took a point away from Katie Taylor, and I thought that was questionable, right? Like, I didn't think Katie Taylor was headbutting Amanda Serrano. Her style, it's you come in, you got an orthodox fighter against a southpaw, stuff like that tends to happen. Amanda Serrano's team said that Katie Taylor is dirty, said that Katie fights with her head. What do you say to that?
Who's the one that said the word dirty?
Oh, Jordan Maldonado, I think, said it first, and then I guess Ariel kind of repeated.
Who's Jordan Maldonado?
Is the trainer for Mannix and Mora.
Look into his past. Yeah, he has no sense in saying dirty. Dirty's not the word, Chris Mannix. Dirty is not the word. That's what happens between an orthodox fighter and a southpaw. Like you said, they trip over each other's feet. That's what happens when you have an older fighter that doesn't have her legs under her. She falls forward, she falls back. Balances are going to be an issue. And when you're that aggressive, you're bound to clash heads. I mean, look at Evander Holyfield, a Hall of Famer, the king of headbutts. Look at Tim Bradley, a Hall of Famer, king of headbutts. They didn't do it intentionally. That was their style.
They took criticism for it, though, during their careers.
That's fine, but they didn't do it on purpose is what I'm saying. There's fighters that do it on purpose sometimes, and those are the ones that are blatant, where they when they're behind or when they're losing or when they're frustrated, then they do it on purpose. Those are the ones that should be harshly punished and then a point deducted right away. Think Victor Ortiz, Floyd Mayweather. That's a blatant headbutt. I mean, there's a lot of cases where you can think about you don't need a warning right away. This one, they took away the point in the second warning, I think it was.
I think it was the third clash of heads. They took away the point.
That's a tricky one. All right. If it was the third one, then I would say...
Because you remember, the first clash resulted in the big cut. There was another one that opened it up, then another one that seemed to open it up a little bit more.
Well, then it should have. Then it's up to the discretion of the referee. He probably, in my opinion, should have given one more harsh warning, and then that's it. One more accident.
I actually didn't think the third clash of heads was that much of a clash. I think the referee was reacting to the first two in the way that Serrano was complaining about it.
The first one they tripped over each other's feet. I believe.
The point is, we've seen worse headbutts. We've seen more This wasn't Victor Ortiz against Floyd Mayweather. This was just a two fighters that fight a certain way coming in and having a clash. They didn't have this issue in the first fight. It just came up early and came up a couple of times in this one. My thing is that in the interview afterwards, Jordan Maldonado, the trainer of Serrano, was like, we got to get a better referee for the next fight. This was an MVP show, right? Like, this is your promotion putting on this event. I never heard of that referee. I'm sure I've seen him before, but I don't remember him. If you are having a fight on this level, and if you know that your opponent fights the way Katie does and sometimes leads with her head, well, how about you go out there and insist that you get the best referee in the United States to come in and referee it? Like, I didn't see Thomas Taylor hanging around. He's a great referee. I would have wanted him to work that corner. Harvey Dock, another pretty good referee. Maybe you bring him in to work that fight.
Jack Reese.
Jack Reese is your favorite referee. Love you, Jack.
And he doesn't take no shit.
Yeah.
He doesn't take no shit.
I'm just saying, like, you.
So there you go. They're the ones holding the strings. They're the ones that are maneuvering the pieces. They have control of the promoter.
It's an idiosyncrasy of mine, Sergio. It's just a thing that come up. Like, whenever I hear people complain after the fact, I'm like, where were you before?
Yeah.
Like, where were you?
Didn't he complain the first fight too as well?
No. I thought the first fight was.
I'm talking about the Jordan guy.
No, he didn't. He was great. Like, they were all great. Like, you remember, you can go back and watch my post-fight interview with them. Like, it was all friendly. Like, Amanda thought she did enough to win, but she was fine with the outcome. Jordan, everyone was shaking hands. They were happy. This was a totally different vibe afterwards. Now, the question is, do we need to see a third fight?
I would love to see a third fight. Yeah. Okay. Here's two opinions as a fighter and as a fan. As a fighter, no. I would right into the sunset.
If you're Katie Taylor.
If I'm Katie Taylor, because if you remember in the last podcast, I thought she was going to get stopped in this fight. I thought her legs were going to give out on her, and I thought Amanda Serrano's pressure and power were going to get to her. It was basically going to be mother time catching up to one fighter. That didn't happen. We saw another flash of greatness with Katie Taylor. That's the reason I'm calling her the GOAT. I just don't think she should keep playing with fire, especially when you're dealing with a fighter in Amanda Serrano who has the promotion on her side. They're gonna have everything on her side. Now that's it. Right into the sunset, man. You cleaned out the division. You're undefeated. You're a beast. That's it. You're a Hall of Famer, and you made millions of dollars. That's what you got into the sport, for the love, for the money, and for the respect. You got all of that, Katie. Congratulations. Right into the sunset, and do something that few fighters, few champions ever get to do, and that's leave at the top, because from here it goes down.
She could walk away. She could retire as the undisputed champion. We saw another women's fighter retire as the undisputed champion.
No, she's not undefeated. I'm sorry.
I said undisputed.
No, I said
yes.
Undefeated.
Yes.
She's once beaten. All right.
She could be the second women's fighter to retire undisputed. But I think there's going to be a lot of money in a third fight. And if you're Katie, and for a lot of years you probably weren't making a ton of money, like, this is your chance. Like, you talk about this a lot, Sergio, about cashing in when the opportunities are there.
You were talking about Sanisa Estrada, the other undisputed champ.
Yes, I heard she retired.
That's my girl right there from East LA. You don't think that the influence my trainer had, and what she saw in our camp, made her have that decision? She's smart for doing that. I wasn't in favor of Sanisa retiring at the top, but when it's done and it's said, great for her. And I think Katie Taylor should do the exact same thing, because she's a lot older than Estrada. So,
but if there's $3 million out there to fight Amanda Serrano in a third fight, and look, Katie was the one after the fight that brought up not only doing it again, but also changing the rules this time. She's the one that suggested going to 3-minute rounds if they go again, which I think makes it even more dangerous, because I think Amanda Serrano is going to be better over 10 3-minute rounds. She's done that. She's even done the 12 3-minute rounds. They could probably go that route. Those are rules I don't think Katie Taylor can win under. But if the money is that significant, I think she's going to go for it, Sergio.
Hey, listen, man, we're prize fighters, so I wouldn't go against her. That's her decision. She's made all the right decisions up to this point. She can make the last one. I will advise her as a fighter myself to ride into the sunset.
Yeah, but you say that, but you wouldn't. Like, if at the end of your...
talking about I did. I left... my last fight I won.
Right. But you've been talking about another fight for the last 4 years.
Yeah, but I do it just to... Well, yeah, and if I do have another fight, it'll be like an exhibition or...
But it wouldn't
or a
be...
Jake Paul
I'm
type.
just saying, but it wouldn't... If there was that kind of money on the table for you, you wouldn't walk away from it. If there was multi-million dollars sitting out there for another big fight, you wouldn't walk away from it.
No, of course not, man. No,
so
it's pride, and this is what we do it for. So that's her decision. But I think a lot of people, especially the people that care about her, is like, you live well now. You change your life. You change your family's life. That's legacy money. You're telling me she doesn't have something else, another outlet where she can make money and she could use her platform and use her name to do great things? Absolutely.
Yeah, but
she
it's like
changed
fighters,
the face of boxing in Ireland.
Right. I agree. Look, she could probably do a lot of different things. She's a huge star over in Ireland. It's just that, as you well know, fighters, when they retire, oftentimes they kind of look around like, what am I doing now?
Maybe women are different. They have more sanity.
Certainly more sanity than you. You know what the crazy part of watching these fights in Saudi Arabia is that we have to get up and go back to work in like 6 hours. So if you are interested in a competitive main event, I suggest you turn to DAZN. On Saturday afternoon in the U.S., Gilberto Ramirez going up against Chris Billum-Smith. Cruiserweight unification fight. You've got Arnold Barboza against Jose Ramirez on the undercard. William Zepeda against Tevin Farmer. We did a podcast about all that just a day earlier, so go back and check that out. Sergio, I will let you go take a nap.
I'm knackered, mate.